What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Ransom Reviews. Today, I'm looking at the top 10 fiction books that I read in 2020. So let's get started. At number 10, with a score of 7.3, is This Book is Full of Spiders by David Wong. This is kind of like science fiction, post-apocalyptic kind of disaster movie. Yes, there are definitely spiders in this book, spider-esque creatures. There are definitely parts that are sort of horrifying and disgusting and gross, but you can tell that David Wong made his money as a comic writer. He used to be the writer for cracked.com, which was a comic website. And the book is humorous. Sometimes it's a bit too like juvenile, the humor in it. You know, you are going to find dick and fart jokes in here. And if that rubs you the wrong way, this book might rub you the wrong way. But at the same time, it's not all juvenile. There are definitely these subversive pokes at American culture and the government and just society at large, some of which are very pertinent to the COVID thing that's been happening in the last couple of years. So those were the parts that I actually really enjoyed the best. In fact, I reviewed this book on my channel. I'll have the link down below if you want to check it out. At number 9, All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. Not the name of this podcast, which is also All the Light We Cannot See, because my light just broke. Thanks a lot, light. I'll get a new one. This book is set with the backdrop of World War II going on. We're following this boy, little German kid who's being groomed for the Hitler Youth. And his story is intertwining with a French girl that is blind. And I don't know, it's really not a story about World War II. It's much more about humanity and empathy and unrequited love and Craigslist missed connections. It's just really nicely written. The language is pleasant, and you know, it might make you cry a little bit if you're an emotional person like me. It's a nice book. This one scored an 8 overall. Next on the list, also scoring an 8 overall, is The Sicilian by Mario Puzo. This, of course, is the sequel to the best-selling Godfather and sort of parallels Godfather 2, the movie, as well. That being said, it is a little bit different, and it's not exactly what I expected. Michael Corleone, of course, is in this book, but he's not the main character. He's really much more of a bit character, supporting actor, as the book really focuses on this Sicilian bandit named Turi, Giuliano. And he's a very charismatic, captivating dude, but he just doesn't have the same weight for me as any of the characters in The Godfather, the original, anybody in the Corleone family, really. So while it was still an interesting read, and I really like Mario Puzo's writing, I just didn't enjoy it as much as The Godfather, which for me was a classic. Number 7 on the list is Factotum by Charles Bukowski. And that's exactly what the book is about, Factotum. It's about people working menial jobs, laborers doing crappy, boring, repetitive tasks. And that's, again, we're following Henry Chinaski, who is Bukowski's sort of alter ego that he uses in a lot of his books. And it's almost not even a book or a story is what I mean to say. It's a bunch of vignettes all sort of weave together. And we're basically just following Chinaski falling down the hill of life. I could see how some people would think this is really depressing. I do think that Bukowski has a certain hopelessness and darkness that if you're not able to see the humor in it like I can, then it might just leave you feeling like crap. And I could totally understand that. But for me, I laugh out loud at almost all of his books. It's dark comedy at its finest. Chinaski is he's just a hopeless loser, and you can't help but laugh at how much of a bumbling fool he is at times. Number six on the list is Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoyevsky. This book scored an 8.3. Overall, I actually have done another longer review of this book on my channel. So if you really want to understand about the themes of crime and punishment, what I loved about it, what I didn't love about it, check the link in the description. You can watch the longer video. It even comes with a skit for fun. But basically, this is a classic in Russian literature. It's can be a challenging read at times just because there's not much happening, but there's so many interesting themes in here, and the language that Dostoevsky uses is really striking and brilliant. And I would say that I would recommend anybody to check this book out. Even if you're reluctant, don't be. Just give it a try. Even if you only make it halfway through the book, there's so much value in the first half of the book that I still think it's worth checking out. So definitely look up Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoyevsky. Number 5 on the list is Conqueror by Conn Iggulden. This is the 5th and final book of the Conqueror series, which was basically built around Genghis Khan and the empire of the Mongols. However, by the time we get to book 5, The Conqueror, Genghis Khan is dead. He has passed away. And at this point, we are now following in the footsteps of Kublai Khan and him sort of revitalizing the Mongolian Empire, which was fascinating, and I really enjoyed it. And this book did earn a score of 8.4 overall. That being said, I liked the other 4 previous books more. Genghis Khan is just one of these mythical figures of history that is absolutely captivating to hear about, read about. I wish they would make more movies about him. They tried one, didn't work out that well. But Conn Iggulden is a dude that I absolutely love. I think I have like 7 or 8 of his books now. He is by far my favorite writer of historical fiction. So if you have any interest in historical fiction or any interest in the Mongolian Empire or Genghis Khan, definitely check out the Conqueror series by Conn Iggulden. Number 4 on my list is A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. This book scored an 8.5 overall. And look at that. Look at how slim that book is. You have to read it. You can read this book in an afternoon. It's not challenging. It's not long. And it's just fun, which is not usually a word I associate with classic literature. I usually struggle mightily reading classic literature, but this book is effervescent. It just bubbles over with enthusiasm, and you just can't help but smile reading about how miserable Ebenezer Scrooge is and how much fun you can just tell that Dickens is having writing this book. The language really is spectacular, and the story is a classic. Everybody knows this story. Everyone knows, whether they've read this book or other editions or seen the plays or watched any of the movies that have been made about this topic. It's just a really interesting and fun idea, and the book is obviously the original source material, and it's great. Check it out. That brings me to number 3, which was Swansong by Robert R. McCammon. I guess this is where I should probably edit in some kind of cool virtual thing. I'm not going to do that. The reason I don't have this book is because I listen to it on YouTube as an audio book, but I do want to have this book, and I have been trying to find this book. It is very difficult to find. It was written in 1987, I believe, and it's a lot like The Stand by Stephen King. It's this post-apocalyptic journey of these interesting casts of characters, what they're trying to do as the world has fallen apart. Now, it has a lot of similarities with The Stand, but there are also certain aspects of it that make it stand on its own. Obviously, the world has ended in a different way. In The Stand, it's some sort of virus, sickness. In Swansong, it's nuclear war that apparently has destroyed the world, and then there are just some people left. And they both sort of have these mystical parts of the story that aren't quite magical, but also are a bit surreal. And they also both have outstanding characters. The character work in Swansong is amazing. They're so unique and so interesting and fun to follow. And it's also really, really dark. It has, like I said, a lot in common with The Stand. The Stand to me is one of my all-time favorite books. And so while Swansong didn't quite live up to that lofty praise, it was a really enjoyable, well written, fun to listen to, interesting book. Highly, highly recommend if you're into that sort of thing, horror or post apocalyptic fiction, or if you liked The Stand, definitely check out Swansong by Robert R. McCammon. At number 2 on the list, also no hard copy, although I am buying one for this because, again, it's a book that I absolutely loved and listened to on audiobook on YouTube. It is Beneath the Scarlet Sky by Mark Sullivan, another book that uses World War II as the backdrop, but just a very new angle for me. We're in Italy and we're following this larger than life character, Pino Lela, who is just so charismatic and so interesting, probably too interesting, but the whole angle of telling the story of World War II through the lens of Italy was new to me, because usually I'm used to either mostly hearing from the side of the Allies, or sometimes you even get, like in All the Light We Cannot See, you get the German perspective a little bit. But Italy is interesting because they were both and they were neither. They obviously got dragged into the Axis powers by Mussolini, who wanted to be Hitler's homie, even though maybe his people didn't agree with him. And then once Mussolini was deposed, then they switched over to the Allied side. So you're sort of getting this mix of people, some people who they don't know what side they're on or what they want to do or where their loyalties lie. But what we have with Pino Lela, the main character, is someone who has a very strong sense of what's right and what's wrong, of morality and what he believes in. And he wants to help people. And that's what this book is about. It's about him finding a way, risking his life to help people. And it is just an absolutely beautiful story, very well written, moving, captivating. It's everything you would expect from an epic World War II tale. And I absolutely adored it. And that's how it earned a 9 overall, which is a very, very, very high score. If you have not read Beneath a Scarlet Sky by Mark Sullivan, you need to read this book. This is a must-read book. It is excellent. Really, really good stuff. Which brings us to number 1 on my list. Finally, we're back to actually having the hard copies. And it is Beartown by Fredrik Backman, who is a very, very popular writer right now. So I imagine this is a book that many of you have heard about. Holy crap, was this book fantastic. I think I read it in 2 days or 3 days tops. Once I opened it, I could not put it down. I know that's a cliche, but it was true in this case. It's a book that is about a really crappy, sad, small town in the woods. They're freezing cold. They've got no money. They got a hockey team. Everybody puts all their hopes and dreams into the hockey team. I guess that's kind of what it's about. But it gives me vibes of Friday Night Lights, the TV show, not the movie. It gives me vibes of Mighty Ducks, us against them sort of mentality, which is actually the name of his next book, Us Against You, which I can't wait to read. But really, it's a book about interpersonal relationships and drama and a small town and humanity. And God, it's just so well written. The characters, you care about them immediately. I did, at least. I think I was like 20 or 30 pages into the story, and I was like already so attached to every character that had been put into this book. And I just remember thinking that is a remarkable feat of writing to pull that off and to pull it off so quickly. And I just have nothing but praise for Beartown. It scored a 9.2 for me, which was my second highest score out of any book, out of any genre that I read in 2020. Beartown was my second best book of the entire year. And it is an absolute must read. Please, 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 if you have not read this book, read this book. And let me know if you have read it in the comments what you thought. Who was your favorite character? I would love to talk to somebody about this book because I thought it was so good. So good. So that's it for today. Those are my top 10 fiction books that I read in 2020. Next week, I will do the top 5 nonfiction books that I read in 2020. And then the week after that, I will do the worst 10 books that I read in 2020. Hopefully by then, I'll have my light fixed. Thanks for listening. See you next time on Ransom Reviews.